Hello everyone, I'm Dragons After Dark, and today I'm going over the alpha news I'm sure most of you have heard. I'll be taking a look at what we know, what we don't know, and my opinion on the whole situation, so let's get started. First, based on the interview Bear's Adventures said she did with Ian, there will be no traditional wild pet battles in Midnight.
He said pets, you can collect them just by getting them in the wild, like seeing them in the wild and catching them. He said the actual battling part of it won't be in Midnight because they're kind of seeing that there's not many people interacting with like the pet battle side of it, but he said you can still get your collections and stuff.
Based on what Ian supposedly said, so this is technically hearsay until the interview is released, there wasn't enough engagement in the pet battle system. If this is actually what he said, I'm going to call Ian on this. Unlike Blizzard hiding subscriber numbers, we can view the percentage of people who complete achievements attached to content and thus interact with a system or feature. I will state there are discrepancies between Wowhead and Data for Azeroth percentages, and I don't know all the ins and outs of why. It seems like Data for Azeroth has a higher percentage for raids, likely because people who focus on that track it more there, whereas Wowhead tends to lean more toward the casual player base. That said, I've been keeping an eye on these percentages for years at this point, and it always plays out the way I'm going to describe. Based on Wowhead's numbers, even if we cut the percentage in half for the Safari achievement in Undermine to account for people who got it after 11.1, 7.5% of people engaged with the system versus the 4% from Data for Azeroth for cutting-edge Gallywicks. Even if we just look at the 7.5% versus the first boss in Mythic Manaforge Omega, Plexus Sentinel, which came out almost 2 months ago on August 12th, it's sitting at 4% on Data for Azeroth. I'd love to look at Safari achievements for 11.2, but it doesn't exist because there were no wild battles at all in 11.2, and take that as a bit of foreshadowing for some of our discussion later. When the content of a patch is current, people engage with the wild pet battling / collecting system at double the percentage as Mythic raiding, yet they pour an inordinate amount of time into Mythic raiding for content most people will only engage with one or more expansions out. It always plays out this way. I recognize that Mythic rating draws views, but let's be honest, most people watching WoW streams are already WoW players, and they're most likely watching for the streamer as opposed to the content, as in race to world first. At most, this is getting churn players to resub for a new patch. At the end, I will be pointing out why the post-expansion numbers look better for Mythic rating than for pet battles. Second, I have seen some people suggest this is just an alpha thing, but Bear's Adventures interview would indicate otherwise. Combine it with the fact they'd have no reason to create and implement a new system for, a 4 or 5 week phase of testing. I never believed that this would just be for the alpha when I first saw it come out. Third, some people have suggested that this is all just dooming and glooming, especially given this is the alpha phase. I would tend to agree with them, except for a few factors. A, the new wild catching system. On its own, this isn't enough to say with surety that they're sunsetting the pet battle system. B, a lot of these pets don't even have placeholder movesets, which they usually get from similar pets or just a set of random abilities tossed on. This absolutely could just be an alpha thing, and we'll see the pets filled out more in the coming weeks or when the beta hits. C, there are no new tamers in Midnight. All the achievements are for old world tamers, and from current testing, the fights have not been changed or updated. You're basically going in and wrecking Zunta's 2-pet level 2 team with a team of 25s, which is a requirement for the achievement. Again, this could change because alpha, but these tamers are an integral part of the initial pet battling tutorial / learning chain. Maybe they'll have a dialogue option added for the sub 25 tamers to have an upgraded team of 25. We'll have to wait and see. D, however, when you combine A and C, it means there's no new battle content in Midnight. midnight. Just achievements slapped over old content like putting lipstick on a geriatric pig. E. The language of the magical pet clicker toy is leaning away from calling them battle pets to vanity pets, which indicates pets that have no movesets. F. Pets that were data mined before 12.0 that had a moveset have had them removed, like Burn. G. As mentioned, there were no wild battles in Koresh. The lore for it is a cop-out, because there were a million critters running around from the word go. They could have done something cool and had wild battles unlock after the ungodly long Ecodome chain, but no wild battles at all. H. The copy and paste of all the Koresh pets was also incredibly disappointing and lackluster, and pointing toward a distinct lack of attention toward the system. If we'd only seen a couple of the above things, I'd agree that it's just alpha and wait for beta, especially the moveset stuff. However, all of the combined indicates it's less doom and gloom and much more of an indication of a soft sunsetting of the system. Fourth, some people are saying this is a Nintendo thing, and I have to disagree. If Blizzard was truly under threat from Nintendo, and considering how aggressive Nintendo is being, we would see a fully retroactive implementation of the new wild battle captures. The fact of the matter is, Nintendo won't be going after anyone who has a stable of lawyers to rival theirs. They're going after smaller studios who have seen a huge profit margin off their patent. We have watched a slow whittling away of pet battle content over the years, with Dragonflight being the exception in the beginning for the daycare and the Forbidden Reach and so on, until you got to the Emerald Dream. That's when they did no tamer battles in the final patch. We've now seen that in the final patch of The War Within, with the addition of no new wild battles. And we're seeing that continue with no wild battles at the very beginning of the expansion of Midnight, with many pets that currently have no abilities. It's been pointed out to me that they remove things by inches, but once they're gone, they don't come back, and I strongly believe that's what's happening here. The endgame of this that I see on the horizon is phasing out pet battles for vanity/non-combat pets, and once they run out of pre-Legion expansions to slap family battles on, that'll be it for tamer battles. By the time they get to the end of that road, most of the people who enjoy battling have probably unsubbed, meaning there's no one around to complain. They'll also cite the dwindling number of people who interact with the family battle achievements as another justification for sunsetting the system for future expansions. I do think with some time and effort the system could see a revival, but taking a look at the trends of the store, we can see where their focus is going. Transmog in one form or another. Whether it's armor, weapons, or housing, WoW is going all in on these cosmetic features. It's why the post-expansion numbers for raids look better than pet battles. People are going back time and again to get those cool mogs and mounts. So even though mythic raiding is half as popular as pet battling when the patch is current, it outpaces engagement further down the road. Pet battles at the end of the day is a downtime system. Because of content pacing and output, we're seeing less downtime between patches, so people are engaging in downtime activities less. In turn, this lower engagement is being used as a reason to start soft sunsetting the system. WoW is headed toward being a dress-up collector game, and if that's the case, it's because that's where they're seeing the most money spent. It's funny, but the trading post was probably a way to market test what fiscal direction they wanted to take the company. They even got to simulate scarcity with limiting traders tender to see where people would really spend their limited money. We were all voting in an election and the transmog won. Now, this bears saying again, but we are only in alpha, things could change. However, based on my experience with the content pacing post Shadowlands, most changes outside of raid, dungeon, and class tuning are mostly set in stone. We're just there to point out the glaring bugs and hope they get fixed. They don't want feedback on how to do something better by the time time we see it in alpha, beta, or PTR. They just want us to tell them when something is broken. I have thousands of hours in this system. I write news for it, track the changes, have almost 2,000 strategies, and if nothing changes, I would lean heavily toward pet battles going the way of archaeology. It would be nice to get some clarity on this and whether their endgame is what I described previously, but I won't be holding my breath. With all that said, 13 years isn't a bad run. Most live service games themselves don't even last that long. I'm not saying it's time to pour one out for pet battles, but I am saying get your bottle opener ready. Until next time, happy battling.